Here we have Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This book right here is powerful. It's a story about a young man who grew up in true story, a young man who grew up in a rough neighborhood, had a very rough upbringing with his whole family, and went through a rough phase as a teenager, and then eventually joined the military and wanted to become a Navy SEAL in order to push himself. And once he gets in there, he mentally has to push himself to a whole nother level. Then eventually he becomes an ultra marathon runner. And like I said, the man just has this ability to just mentally push himself further than anybody you've ever met. And so I just thought it was funny and ironic that I picked this book because I was actually reading the paperback of this book while listening to the audiobook for Williamson's with the course in weight loss. And Williamson was more of a, it's good to, she was very nurturing. She was very caring. She was like, hey, it's good to write down your emotions and how you feel, talk to a friend or a counselor, and just, sometimes it's good to cry it out and just deal with the fact that something hurts you. And David Goggins, he has basically the opposite approach. David Goggins would actually cuss himself out over his insecurities and the things that bothered him. When he was a teenager, he was bothered by a lot of things. So what he would do is he would shave his face and shave his head. And the whole time he would basically cuss himself out about all his insecurities. He'd be like, you damn thug, what's wrong with you? Wearing your pants down, wannabe thug, hanging out with gangsters or wannabes. You can't even read. You can't even read, and you're too embarrassed to ask for help because you can't read. You're going to be another damn homeless dude on the streets. Get your stuff together, David. Let's go. And so he was obviously more colorful with his language, and I got into it too. I'm sorry I couldn't help it, but I tend to do this strategy a little bit too, where I got to yell at myself in the mirror to really get myself going. And he did this for years, and it got him to that point where, yeah, he struggled to read in high school, but because of the way he dealt with this, he used that anger from that insecurity as fuel, as fire to push him past that point, right? And Williamson was more of a calm, cool, collected, caring, nurturing. And so it's ironic that I get these two opposite extremes on how to deal with your emotions. And I promise you, I wasn't looking around for books that dealt with emotions. It was just, I got both of them within a week span of each other. And I was reading both of them at the same time. And so even though they had very different approaches, they both say, you got to deal with your emotions. You got to acknowledge that things hurt you. And you got to acknowledge that, yeah, you know what? It did hurt me, but I overcame it. And I'm not going to let it hold me down forever. Because when you guys try to press it down and pretend like it's not there, man, it just haunts you for years. And so instead, use that insecurity, use that fire to give you the energy to push through and move on. And so one of the great things that David Goggins mentions is the 40% rule. We only reach 40% of our maximum potential. Right when you start getting near that 40% maximum potential, our brains and our bodies are like, yeah, don't push any harder, dude. Like, that wasn't meant for you. You weren't meant to go past that. Tone it back a little bit. You might get hurt. You're not smart enough for this. You're not fast enough. You're not strong enough. Just bring it back a little bit. Don't worry about it. You'll be okay. And that's what our brains and bodies naturally do. But you have to understand, David Goggins pushed himself through Navy SEALs training. He pushed himself through 100-mile marathons up and down hills in Hawaii. Like, he pushed himself to another limit that very few humans have ever overcome. Like, he literally had broken bones in his shins and kept running for hours upon hours after the fact till he finished. And so what I'm trying to get at is, it's like, I know a lot of us, we see marathon runners or triathletes and they're going and they're looking graceful and smooth. And you're like, man, I could never do that. The part you don't see, those guys, every 5 minutes or even more frequent, their brain's like, quit, just stop, just be done. Don't do this. It's a waste of time. Get out of it. You can't do this no more. And they find a way to mentally overcome and push through and work from 40% potential to 45 to 50 to 60% potential. And that's what you got to do. You got to start pushing yourself in the right way. You got to overcome that voice in your head that's saying you can't do it. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You got to push past that because you got to reach your potential. No matter what extreme that you try and do with the super soft approach, the super mean approach. Heck, I had somebody said, if I cussed myself out in the mirror, I would probably end up crying. I was like, you know what? Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, man. You got to find what works for you and reach your full potential. You can accomplish anything you want as long as you're willing to sacrifice and put in the work. I believe in you. Go get it.